Hello and welcome to today's edition of The Wealthy Lightworker. I am so excited to share Elena Lipson with all of you. Welcome, Elena.
Thank you.
Elena is the divine self-care mentor. She's a speaker, she's an author, and she's a transformational coach and a retreat leader. She is the creator of 66 Rituals, the Divine Self-Care Circle, the Virtual Retreat Academy, and you have a podcast, right, called Meditations and Musings?
Yes, it's like 7 months old and I love my podcast. It's so much fun.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So definitely check those things out if you're watching. And before we get started, let's go ahead and have our nice deep breath together.
I love that. So good. I love you already.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. When I came across your website and what you share with women especially, but anyone, this idea of divine self-care is so needed right now, I think more than anything else. And I really love the name of our interview today is the feminine metrics of success, basically.
Yes.
So before we get into that, because I just can't wait to talk about what are feminine metrics of success and what does that mean. Before we jump into that though, I'd love to hear from you just kind of how did you find yourself as, a transformational coach? How did you get to this place? Where did it start for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I won't make it like the whole, 10 chapter book, but basically, so I grew up on the East Coast. And as we were just talking before we pressed record was the East Coast and the West Coast have a different energy. I live on the West Coast now. And on the East Coast, there's this sort of trajectory that I think you take that the one I plugged into, which was go to school, go to college, get a degree, get a corporate job, put on the beautiful heels and the suit and end up in some really nice company, in which I did. And actually it was great. Except that I found this sort of like, I guess what we call the hustle now. It's like this constant, never ending striving to reach whatever top office you were in. And so what that meant for me was like, I double majored, I graduated high school early. I had just never had any, other vision other than just going to work somewhere, leaving in the morning, taking the subway, getting home at night, watching TV. Like it's just that weird bubble that the East Coast tends to create for you. So I plugged right into that. And plus I moved to the US when I was like 5 or 6 years old. So we had this sort of immigrant mentality too, which is you're just going to make it. And streets are covered with gold, but you got to go out there and get it. So I watched my parents work themselves to the bones. I watched just like my sister do the same thing who was older. So there was never any other way. So I plugged right into that, like get a paycheck, get a bigger paycheck, get a bigger paycheck, get a bigger house kind of thing. And so I was in it. And then my sister moved to the West Coast when I was like 19 and I started visiting her like every few years. And eventually I'm like, why am I in this winter storm? Like I can't even dig out my car. It's so cold and I love the warmth. So I ended up moving to the West Coast and started to slow down a little bit, even though I was still in that corporate kind of hustle. So I was a organizational development training girl. So I loved training people, learning technologies, and that's what I did for work. I was in the sales element. Then I was in the training element. I learned how to take apart computers back when there were PCs. And so I knew every aspect of like technology and training. And so my biggest kind of pursuit in the corporate world was becoming a corporate trainer, which I did. And I absolutely loved it. I mean, I loved everything about it, developing curriculum, being in the front of the classroom, teaching the curriculum, working with amazing mentors, and my sales team, my training team was always amazing. It was all good. So that happened over like in my 20s, right? What was also happening at the same time was that this hustle mentality, this constant work, this striving, this like showing up early, coming in on weekends, always thinking about it. I'm surprised I somehow met my husband. We got married through that time, but it was like that 1 week vacation mentality. It was, the weekend little bubble of play and then poof, right back to work. And my body, I was not built for that. I mean, there are people who do it and do it for a lifetime and it's just fine. But I was getting sick every 3 to 4 months. I thought it was like this seasonal cold thing that was happening. And what was actually happening, which I didn't find out until later, until I had my son, and my body literally crashed with pain and constant exhaustion, was that I was developing an autoimmune disorder, which is so common. I can't even explain. Like the women that I work with now in the self-care world, so many of them come to me with some autoimmune disorder. And it all comes from not listening to our body's signals, thinking that working more, harder, faster, bigger, cheaper, whatever is the way to go. And it's not how we're wired. We're just not wired to be machine-like. So once my son was born, my husband and I decided to move to Washington State, which is where we are now, to a place I'd never heard of. And I could look outside my window right now and look at like forest and skies and deer and bunnies. And, it's a really beautiful place to be. And it's one that I think I resisted a little bit because I love the warmth of California, but there's something about the cycles and the seasons here that really nourishes me. So when we moved here and life really slowed down in some ways, meaning I left the corporate world, we moved to a new state, I decided I was going to start my own business, mainly because I don't like asking for time off. Like, I don't want someone to tell me when I could go, take care of my son, or if he's sick. I want to just have that freedom to really be able to take care of him. So that was my conversion into thinking a different way, thinking of like, okay, what can I do? And that's when I started the whole online world. I started an online store, started blogging, and this is before Facebook, before Instagram, before anything. So I was writing articles and I was still hustling, to be quite honest, So this is kind of where the triple storm happened. So I had this baby, so not sleeping very well because like the first, whatever, you just don't, it's an adjustment. My body was, healing from birth and the whole thing. And I was starting a business in the morning hours and the nighttime hours. And then boom, it was like my body just said, okay, seriously, you need to slow down. And I started having these like bend over pain in my gut. And I just had the worst PMS I'd ever had in my life. I just didn't feel good. I was like having an out of body experience. I looked around me. My son was healthy and beautiful. Our marriage was great. We lived in this new place. I was making new friends, which was definitely a stress of its own, not having family or friends around. And finally, like someone said, you might want to go have some blood work done and go see a naturopath, which I'd never even thought of. And lo and behold, she's the one who did the blood work. And she's like, you have Epstein-Barr, you have this autoimmune disease that basically every time you feel this level of stress, you're going to feel like you have the flu, which was what was happening for years. And I didn't know.
Wow.
So I had several meltdown moments. Like there's not that one, it was just like the stretch of meltdown where this all sort of hit the head when my son was about 2.5. I'd been running this business for almost 3 years now, this new online business. And I just thought, you know what? I need to stop everything. And that was huge and scary. And I sold my business, sold the inventory. It was an online baby store. And for the first time in my life, I stopped making money, which I'd been doing since I was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I thought, I just need to figure out what's going on with my body, my mind. Like I just am not thinking straight. And thank goodness I found yoga. I kind of refound that I'd been doing it for just health purposes and working out, but now I found it in a different way. So I went to this place that was like the yoga, psychology of yoga. And she's like a mentor and a teacher. And it was just the perfect place for me to go because she really helped to connect the spirit and the body. And all of a sudden, I decided to take this teacher training with her and it was life-changing. I heard the word self-care for the first time in my life. I was taking time away from my family, which was for many moms, especially new moms, it's very guilt-inducing, which it was. It totally was. But once I realized that when I left and took care of myself and came back, I was better. Like I was more patient, I was more present, and I could deal with the issues. So that was the seed that got planted with the word self-care, with me thinking like there must be something going on. So the one thing I didn't mention was while I was in my corporate job, I was also getting certified as a coach, as a business and life coach with Coach U like 18 years ago. So I was not only working in corporate, but I was also starting this business on the side because part of my job as a corporate trainer was also coaching executives. So I was doing both, right? So like add a whole other layer to it. So I thought, well, I really loved coaching. I loved it. It was amazing. I loved the feeling of diving in deep with someone and taking them through a process. Maybe I should do that again, but I didn't want to do it the way I'd done it before, which is just fill my schedule with phone calls after work, right?
Yes.
Then like serendipitously, I found B-School with Marie Forleo and learned like, I can do this in a different way. I can, leverage my time in some ways. I can create a course, which I knew how to do. And so that really changed everything. I thought, if I were to coach again, who do I want to coach and what do I want to coach them on? And I just thought, like everything, we're here to learn our lessons. And if we are teachers, which I believe many of us are, we turn around and we take what we've learned and we put it through our own lens, our own voice, our own message. And so self-care became what I started teaching. And it just went like that. Like within the first year, I did over 100 interviews because people wanted to talk about it. It resonated. My story resonated. They're like, yep, me too. I was burned out. I am burned out. Like, what do I do? So I took everything that I was learning and everything that I knew intuitively and started reverse engineering it, created courses. And that's been my last sort of 4.5 years of being this divine self-care mentor and just teaching women just the basic small steps, the rituals, the practices, the mindset work to give yourself permission to really play and to like the feminine metrics, which I'll talk about.
Yes, please.
Yeah, maybe I'll share them now. So the feminine metrics of success are a way of seeing that, yes, you can have a good strategy. Yes, you can have even income starting to flow, but it never quite gets to the next level because you find yourself hitting the same walls over and over again. And so for me, what I found, the times that I did make those leaps in income and did make those like, oh my God, clients are just coming to me. What is that about? Like, how did that happen? I found that it wasn't about working harder, longer, stronger. It was about the metrics, which are pleasure, play, ease, grace, and trusting your own pace. Those are the feminine metrics. And so how can we get those intentionally onto your calendar? So that's why I started teaching. And that's what my podcast is about. It's all about exploring, okay, so can I accept the fact that when I decide to go play, whatever that looks like for me, it happens to be dance and nature and friends and family, I feel like I can come back to my computer and I see more opportunity and I'm inspired and I have more ideas and things seem to be more in flow. So for me, like it was hard for me to accept that too, because I had even said that out loud to a mentor before. I was like, feels like when I take a day off and I go play and I go to the water and I just do nothing, I come back and I'm like super inspired or there's an opportunity. And she's like, yeah. But let's talk about strategy. I'm like, okay. Yes. And so yes, strategy. And if your energy is off, it's never going to work. Listen, all the best strategies are available. They're all out there on the internet, in books. They're free. You can take free online university classes. Yeah. But not everyone is finding success on their own terms. So why is that? And I think it's because people are defining success on someone else's terms. So I want to use the feminine metrics to define my success. How much am I playing with my family and my friends in my life? How much pleasure am I experiencing? How much free time do I have? Do I have time to just do nothing? So I want to live now. I want to live by the feminine metrics. And that's sort of how my work has evolved. So that's the sort of short story, long story, but that's where I am now. Yeah.
And it's funny. So as a mom and as an East Coaster, I can completely relate to, the pressure that we put on ourselves. And my question now for you is like, so immediately for me, what comes up is like, yeah, that's great, but can I really make money doing that? And how does the feminine metrics of success relate to one's ability to receive money? How does that relate?
I think they're actually super interconnected, because if I can give myself permission to be worthy of my time, to do things that fill me up and light me up, then I'm going to start feeling that self-worth expand. And that's what will allow you to price your programs, ask for the sale, to be quiet more than you speak. Like, some of the some of the most lucrative moments I've had are the ones where I just allow myself to show up fully as myself and make an offer if it feels really good, and just wait for the yes. And if it's a yes, it's awesome. And if it's a no, that's okay too. I have enough self-worth to not be swayed by, did a client, say yes or no? Or do I, like, if I don't feel worthy of teaching someone based on the insights that I have and the work that I've done, I'm not going to create that course. I'm not going to put it out there. I'm not going to price it well. And the energy is going to, and I've had really wonky, bad launches. like, where is everybody? Yeah. And then I've had other launches that I literally just made a video, showed up and said, I'm doing this. And everyone's like, I'm in. And so over the years, I've had to really reflect on, okay, what was the difference between the no one showed up?
Yeah.
To like, oh my gosh, double the people that I had set my intention for showed up. And it was so easy. Like, I feel like I didn't have to do anything. And the difference was my energy. That's why I love the title of this. The fact that you can infuse spirituality, infuse your energy, infuse alignment into your work is everything. Everything. It's, you're either going to look at it and see, oh, the market's so bad and the opportunity is going down and the Facebook algorithm, blah, 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 or you can just say, I'm going to figure this out. And I really believe in this, and I'm going to just do it in a way that reflects me. I'm going to write about it, speak about it, do a Facebook Live or do Instagram. You'll always find a way if you're in alignment. And if you're not in alignment, and if you're feeling like the opportunity is not there, you're going to not do the things every day that get your energy right. And I'm not saying I'm always aligned, but I am in a place in my life where I know my worth. I know I can help you. I know that if you're in, I'm in, and we're going to like make magic happen. But it's taken me time to get there. In the beginning, it was, you sort of have to like, okay, just like cross my fingers, I'm going to hit record. And I remember even seeing my very first video blog. It was called Judgment versus Discernment. And it was so funny because when I used to record videos on, like, it wasn't Facebook Live before, right? You had to press record and do the whole thing, and I movie it up and then post it.
Sure.
And I would talk so fast. I was such an East Coast like talker, but I was so nervous. Like, I couldn't edit it at all because there were no pauses. Like, I don't even know how I breathed because I would, like, 20 minutes of nonstop talking. I don't even know what I said.
Yeah.
What was my point? Like, so it, now when I record my meditations, I have my podcast or I go live, I'm just so comfortable in my own skin. Ooh, can you hear that?
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's my mom calling.
No worries.
Just decline it. That's so weird. Okay. She must have heard me talking like East Coast.
Yes, right.
So funny. So yeah, I think once you embrace that the way you show up is more important even sometimes than what it is that you're selling, that, yes. And when both are aligned, then it's really, that's where the magic happens.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. And I love, what you talked about where, energy is what really truly makes it. And when you said that your self-worth, by shifting that, then you shift everything else. And maybe we could talk about that a little bit more. So you were saying, you had these health issues and things. So give us some tips for where you can start. So if someone's watching and they're like, yeah, that's me, I'm exhausted, my body's breaking down, I'm stretched too thin. What would be the first thing you would recommend to them to do to get out of that pattern?
So there's a lot of things for sure, but the one thing I can share where I started that started making the most difference, and this is part of the free gift that I'm giving and the reason I give it, and I've been giving it for like 4 years because it's the one thing that everyone really loves and comes back to. And even when I'm working with clients and I say, okay, well, how's your morning practice? They're like, oh, it's been a month. I'm like, all right, well, let's start there. So for me, as I mentioned with the whole yoga training, the instructor, mentor, teacher, she had us commit to this morning practice. And I resisted it like crazy because if you remember, I did it when I had a little son and, sleep was still kind of like just like my little jewel, right? I do not want to give up sleep, so I'm not waking up earlier. But one day I'm like, I just heard it over and over again. I heard my intuition telling me like, get up, get up. I'm like, okay, I can do 5 minutes. I can totally do 5 minutes. I'm worth 5 minutes. Yay. So I set my alarm for 5 minutes earlier. I woke up, I did like a mini version of the breath work that we did, some movement. I did a little journaling. And I noticed, I just paid attention for the rest of the day. My energy was so different in 5 minutes. And I thought, okay, well, I just said, I'm not doing any more than 5 minutes for like 2 weeks, because I knew that if I started expanding it, I would just sort of psych myself out a little bit. I know my own process, like my will has to be in it. So for 2 weeks, I did 5 minutes. And then I felt so good. I'm like, well, maybe I could do 10 minutes. So I did 10 minutes. And then over time, and a lot of the excuses that some of the women that I work with, they're like, well, I have a baby and I have kids, and I'm like, do it your way. Like, I have friends who have 5 kids, so they have to do it when all the kids are out of the house in school. I have homeschooling moms. I'm a homeschooling mom now, so life is very different. But when he was little, what I would do is I would create a little basket of new toys every day. So I would have like this block of time where he was just sort of crawling around me, and I would still do it. And he was learning from the process of watching his mother take care of herself too. It's a very important lesson we need to teach our children, that we are worthy of our own time, that it's not all about them all the time, that we are human beings in our own right. So that's what I would say. Like, that's why I teach the morning practice, because on the one hand, I don't want to be militant about it, but I've seen it transform so many lives. I've seen it give you that little bit of a push, a little bit of a start. And I would say, if I have something more to do, like if I'm leading a retreat or speaking on stage or have a bunch of interviews or whatever, I do more self-care in the morning. Like when it's my energy, it literally aligns my enthusiasm, my presence, my clarity, so that I show up as the best, most alive version of me. And so if I have to speak on stage, I mean, no joke, I do like a 90-minute thing where I'm dancing, doing yoga, I'm writing, I'm like resting, I'm meditating, because I want to tap in. I want to show up on that stage. And if I forget my words altogether, which has happened before, I could still be okay. I could just say, I have no idea what I'm going to say right now. And that's all good. Like, I can be so present that whatever happens, happens, whether the mic fails or whatever. Like, it just is okay, because you can be present. When you're not present, you just basically have nowhere to go because you were so counting on everything to go a certain way that you lose track. And that is a metaphor for everything. If I can be present in my day, I can go with the flow. I can answer questions. I can be myself. I don't have to wonder what I'm going to say next, because it's flowing through. Yeah. So yes, of course, strategy. Of course, I know what my work is about, and I want to be clear and precise. And I can also go with the flow. If you ask me about something I wasn't thinking about, I want to be clear and present. So this morning I did a Zumba dance class for an hour. I did my journaling. Like, I show up for myself first so that I can show up for everyone else. So if you don't have a morning practice, which I think more and more people do now, but if you don't have one, or if you want one that's more aligned to your spiritual self or your physical body self, which is huge for women, we carry our emotions in our bodies. So if you're feeling stuck in your mind, I guarantee you're feeling stuck somewhere in your body. So that's why I teach it as a part of the practice, because we have to move, whether it's walking or dancing, or yoga or stretching or whatever. So that's a big part of it.
I absolutely love that. And it's something I can speak to, because I've been doing a daily yoga practice now for about 6 months, and it's been life-changing, absolutely life-changing. So anyone who does not have a morning practice, check out Elena's free gift, because that's going to give you a container to put in, something that you can tailor to your own needs and your own, something that makes you feel good. Because just like Elena said, when she was starting, she knew she could only do 5 minutes. And that's what she did for 2 weeks. So finding something that feels good for you. Otherwise we psych ourselves out.
Oh, totally. And I still have self-doubt and fear. And every morning I wake up, because here's what happens. Like, a lot of people who are taking chances and stepping out and doing things in the world start to have these gremlins show up, right? And they tend to show up, 3 or 4 a.m. That was my big thing. And I realized I wasn't alone. And what's happening is there's this, the part of your brain that is like the I can do it, let's make this happen brain is actually sleeping at that time. And the only part that's awake is like the gremlin. And so you're freaking out. And if you can wake up and realize, okay, this is what happened, but I'm going to just do what I know is going to get me back into alignment and clear those cobwebs out, then I can take the next steps. Because if you can't, it's like that like 3 seconds of courage that you need to take that risk, whether it's make that phone call or email someone. And, you know, the spiritual element of like the spiritual, wealthy light worker piece, there's this disconnect from spirituality and money.
Yes.
And I want to like fuse it back together because in order to be that person who, you know, has that flow and abundance, you have to show up and take risks and email that email and make that phone call and press record. And in order to do that, you have to fill yourself up with courage and enthusiasm. And that takes, to me, it feels like it takes a practice of coming into your body, coming into your mind, and coming into your spirit. So that's the basics of the morning practice. It's so easy, but it's so hard to commit to. So just, you know, I think if you're doing anything in the world worth sharing, then you need to make sure you're getting that alignment first thing in the morning.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And so I guess, you know, the last thing to kind of leave everyone with today is let's talk a little bit about, you know, how have you seen in your life, or how have you coached others, or specifically how money has and wealth has shifted for you since you've started to use these practices, like maybe a story, but also just in general.
Yeah, I think there's been a huge sort of equal and opposite reaction based on the amount of self-care that I've given myself permission to have, the amount of risk that I've taken, and then equaling to the amount of income that starts to flow in and opportunities that come in. I think there's this like a little bit of control that we can have as women, that we want to be able to say, if A, then B, like if we do all these things right, then the money will show up. And sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't. So for me, it has been like, there's a really, I love, this is my favorite story about like giving myself permission. For the longest time, I hated cleaning my bathrooms and I just hated it. I'm like, but I love taking baths. So I always want a clean bathtub. And so finally I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hire a cleaner. I don't care if my husband disagrees. This is what I need. I need to have a clean bath at all times, because for me, one of my energy practices, you know, usually once or twice a week, is getting in a bath and doing my Epsom salts and my essential oils. It's just part of my clearing. And if the bathtub is dirty, that means I have to clean it. And I just had other things to do. Hired the person, ended up like most perfect person entered my world. She was amazing. She was singing every time she was cleaning. Like, she was so sweet, and she was just doing her own little business. She was a stay-at-home mom. So I was supporting her. I was like joyfully giving her the check every time she came. And the first time she came, I had a call with a potential new client at a new price, like a new coaching package. I was like, oh God, you know, how could I even say the amount out loud? Oh my God. It was like one of those moments. It's like a couple of years ago. And so the woman's here cleaning upstairs. I can hear her whistling and singing. It's really cute. And I'm out there. My office wasn't even set up yet. I was like in my dining room, and I was having a conversation. I'm like, just be present, really listening. I'm like, doesn't matter if she says yes. I just want to get to know this person and see what her needs are. And we had this beautiful conversation, and I kind of went through my process. I'm like, great. Well, are you ready to, you know, I feel like this is great, and did my whole salesy thing. And she asked me how much it was. I said it. I was quiet, and she said yes. And I like almost burst into tears, because I thought, oh my God, like I gave myself the gift of having this person come and clean, which was actually really hard for me, because my mom cleaned our house. Like it just wasn't even a thing. I didn't grow up with anyone cleaning my house. I'm the one who does it. My husband's amazing. Like there's no reason why I should have it, except that I wanted it and I needed it. So I gave myself permission. And this woman like said yes to this new price. And I'm like, this is incredible. At the same exact time, I'm serving this client. She said yes. I'm giving this gift to myself. Guess what? When she leaves, I'm going to go take a bath. Like It was this perfect aligned moment that I gave myself permission to basically invest in myself. And then energetically, I showed up for this client and she said yes. And that has been a theme over and over again. If I invest in myself, if how can I ask someone to invest in me if I'm not doing it for myself, right? That's the biggest part of it. I don't care the price tag. I've paid $5,000 for a day of coaching a day, right? Yeah. I've paid $500 for a month of coaching. I've like the whole spectrum. Doesn't matter. It's the energy behind it. Doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't mean the more you pay, the more you get. I found that is not right either. Like sometimes the best coaching I've had was like free conversations with just women. So it's not the price, it's the permission to say yes to myself, to energy, time, attention, and money. And once I can do that for myself, something happens. I expand my possibilities. I show up differently, and people get it. And if you were to stop someone and say, why did you just spend that money? They would just be like, oh, well, it just felt right. Mm-hmm. And I do ask, why did you show, I do follow up with questions. So it's always like, it just felt like the right thing to do. And so it's energy. It's how you show up. And I've had people say no, and that's okay too. So I think just the permission to invest in yourself, whether it's time, energy, or money, will always loop back around. And if you have a lot of people saying no to you for whatever reason, start by stepping back and looking into your own life and saying, where am I not investing in myself? Not just financially, but time. Like, I don't start any calls in the morning until 10:30 or 11 a.m. because that morning time is mine. And that took me years to own too. I used to run to drop off my son to school and then run back for 9 o'clock appointments. And I was like sweating. Yeah. And one day I was like, hold on, this is my business. Why am I rushing to get to the client that I can barely hear what she's saying because I'm just still not present? Yeah. I thought, I can't take calls right after I drop off my son because I need time to come back, to tap into the space, to tap into the energy. So just that permission to do it my way, on my terms, changes everything. And I do it as an ongoing process because there's always more to do. The work is never done. There's always new limits. As you hit whatever dollar amount you were striving for and you hit it, then there's the next limit. It's just a constant, especially for women, because we are cyclical beings. There's always going to be new rhythms and new awarenesses. And as your kids get older, you have to meet them where they are. I have an adolescent now. So it's a whole different thing than I was mothering a 2-year-old. Yeah. So got to grow with it. Yeah.
Wow. Elena, I wish I didn't have to cut you off because this is amazing. Thank you so much for that. And this is something that I think for women, especially, it doesn't matter who you are, embracing these feminine metrics of pleasure, play, ease, grace, and trusting our own pace. Those things are new metrics to judge our lives by. And what's so amazing, I think, is that, the more that you allow pleasure into your life, money's going to want to come in too, because money's going to be like, hey, I want to be a part of this fun. Let's make more fun. Just as you were supporting the woman who's cleaning your home, it all pays itself forward. And we don't think of it that way, but we have to shift that mindset and make it more about fun.
Yeah, why not? Why not make it fun? Money can be fun. Let's make money the easy thing.
Yes.
Right? So I know it takes work to get there, but you got to start right here. So
right here with this, and with checking out Elena's morning routine, and checking out her musings and meditations and all the things that you offer. I'm so excited to have met you and to be able to share you with this audience. I can't wait to get the feedback on today's session. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, Elena.
Thank you. I appreciate it.